Welcome to the Grip Kings ArmWrestling channel. My name is Owen, and today we are joined by one of the sport's most dedicated competitors, a technician with over a decade in his professional career, founder of the pound for pound arm wrestling brand, and a man who never quits and always gets back up. A multinational Australian champion and known for his relentless strap gain and his technical versatility. Whether you're a fan or a critic, his impact is undeniable. This is Ryan Bowen. Welcome, sir.
Wow, that is the coolest intro to a podcast I've been given. Thank you very much. That was good. I like that, man. Thank you very much. There was one thing you said in there that means the most to me is the man that never quits. That's if there's anything that I can be remembered by in the sport, that's what I hope to do. So just keep on going, keep on improving as the years go on. I think I've started my 14th year or something in the sport now. It's getting up there. But man, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time, and I'm really curious to who Ryan Bowen is. I mean, I do obviously know a bit about you, but I'm curious to go into depth into your life, into your profession as an arm wrestler, So yeah, thanks for taking the time. I'm gonna drop all the basic stuff because like how you started, it's already out there. I try to create some questions that haven't been asked or maybe a little bit of overlap. But yeah, I don't want to double down on everything that's already out there. So, what did you underestimate in the sport initially before coming into arm wrestling? I know you've been in the army, right, for a lot of years, and you had a bet with your dad, all that stuff, and you lost it, and then eventually you became to the professional stuff. But what did you underestimate at the beginning? Do you have any idea?
It was easy answer now, and it's joint conditioning. I didn't realize how much joint conditioning was going to be a factor in this sport, and it took me a while to realize that. It wasn't until I saw people with initially I thought, yeah, okay, technique and muscular strength is really what it's going to come down to. But I remember there was a moment in the sport for me, probably. I forget what year it was. Whenever Lachlan Adair faced Todd Hutchins in a super match, at that stage, Lachlan Adair, in a muscular strength sense, was way ahead of Todd on arm wrestling specific lifts. And I remember thinking, Lachlan's going to win this match. Like I remember thinking, he's going to win this match. He's just stronger than Todd in a gym. And then Todd just toyed with him, and I was like, oh, okay. And then you start to realize with more experience that, like, if I had the choice, if it was a life or death super match for me, and I had to win it, and I had to pull either someone who's been in the sport for 5 years that has bigger 1RMs than me, or someone that's been in the sport 25 years with smaller 1RMs than me, I'd pick the 5-year guy with the bigger 1RMs. So that was something that I didn't realize until probably about year 7 or 8 in the sport, that joint conditioning played such a big factor. And now where I sit in the sport, I actually feel like it's becoming the separating factor between the world champions and the guys that are 5 through to 20 ranked in the world. 5 through to 20, they're all super strong. They're all good technicians. They know how to arm wrestle, but the difference is who's got the elbow of steel, who's got a shoulder that just doesn't open. And if you look at all the world champions, that's what stands out to me is their elbows are made of iron. And I think that that is something you can't rush in arm wrestling. It's probably the most difficult of the 3 things to develop. Technique can be learned pretty quickly. If you're paying attention, you can pick up technique pretty quick. Strength, we know how to apply gym strength and develop bicep strength and forearm strength and things like that. And you can people will jump on gear and get strong incredibly quickly, but nothing can make your joints conditioned to the labors of side pressure. And I would describe it like, if you grip an early guy in the sport who's really strong, he feels like a rubber band. He might be strong, but he's loose. You grip a veteran of the sport, their strength is instantaneous. They feel like a steel bar, and it's a totally different ball game. So that's what I underestimated when I first came into the sport, was the importance of of joint conditioning. Yeah.
All right, all right, all right. That's a great answer. And yeah, I remember my first time that I arm wrestled in a local club. I didn't really know about arm wrestling that much. I went to the gym for like seven years already, and there were these smaller guys beating me during the training, and I was like, I'm not the type of guy that's cocky or or anything, but I knew that there was a trick or like some technique, and then eventually I gradually learned, like yourself, about the joint conditioning. And when I started doing that, the pain went, well, it didn't go away, but it was
Yeah.
less. It was less.
Yeah. Well, and
So
that's it.
yeah, all
Like,
right, awesome.
it keeps going, doesn't it? The pain never ends. Like, there's always someone who's got a little bit more than you. Unless you're Levan, there's someone that's got a little bit more. And so, even after being in the sport for 14 years, I'm still pushing my elbow hard all the time in training to try to get more. Like I said, we're chasing down people like Todd Hutchins in my weight category. He's the man to beat, for example, and he does it. If you look at his matches, he wins his matches with an elbow of steel. Really, it's not that he's. We know that his biceps aren't. He goes out there and says that he doesn't need the bicep strength for doing what he does. We'll see how he goes against Oleg Petrenko at the next event. That's a super interesting one
Hmm.
because Oleg got way more strength than Todd. And if we're talking muscular, he's got way more strength. But there's no doubt that Todd's got way more elbow and steel in his joints. So we'll see. We'll see where that
That's an
balance
amazing
lies.
clash up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super
Yeah,
interesting.
I can't wait to see that. So, but how has that changed your training for you? So you said about year seven, you got into the joint conditioning training. How has that developed for you? Like what
Yeah. Well,
changed in that
the,
regard?
the
How?
my evolution of training has been that I started out focusing on purely just mastering technique. I wanted to understand how to move. And I said to myself, I'll get strong in the little things that matter most. So the first sort of 5 years was all table time technique and execution. Um, and I once I recognized that I needed the side pressure, that I needed the joints, I jumped right into it. I was lucky enough to actually engage with Todd Hutchins for about a year. He was overseeing my training programming, and he came out to Australia and set me up with specific vectors to pull on and things like that. And so I did. I just ran at it head on. I started going sideways with cables, plyometrics, isometrics, explosive stuff, 1RMs, and I started really just putting my elbow on the line as much as I could. I when I started when I pull as well, I started to adjust the way I train, particularly when I train with guys that are weaker than me. I let them swing around on my elbow. I'll concede my hand to a point, let them go into the offense, and I will just spend time letting them swing around on my elbow joint, so that the elbow just builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up. So I I I really, for the first, I would say 11 years, or yeah, from 0 to 7 was table time, and then from 7 to 11 was kind of conditioning focused. And the last component for me has actually been from the 11 through to 13, where I am now, where I'm finally focusing on fundamental sort of foundational strength. That was something that I did not focus on at all. Like the first 5 years, I did not go to the gym. It was just table time. 5 through to 12, it was a lot of specifics, a little bit of gym time, but no real proper gym time. It was just all cable specifics and things like that. And again, little movements, trying to control center with my side pressure. And it wasn't that I was becoming a side pressure based arm wrestler. It was just having
Mm,
strong side pressure in your setup allows for your top roll to work really freely, or allows for a hook to be set really
mm,
comfortably, and you have access to rotation. That was my purpose, was winning that first 5 millimeters was always my goal. But and then now, like I said, from 11 through to 13, the last 2 years have been strength training and just going back and doing essentially powerlifting training and things like that. And that
mm.
I feel like I've done it in an order that is not common. I think a lot of people come to the sport and have a lot of muscular strength first, where muscular strength to me the last component that I'm adding to to my game. So that's been my evolution in training. Yeah.
But there are multiple ways to roam. That's what I think is fun about arm wrestling is that it's so diverse. Like you see Todd doing the side pressure stuff with his a conjugated method. There's other people like Devin is doing a whole different style of training, and they're still top world level athletes. And that makes it so interesting to see all these different types of training programs and regimes clash on the big stages.
Yeah. Well,
So
like Devin's approach is so different, and um, so I mean, then you got the Levan's sort of fundamental approach, and I'm someone that was always obsessed with taking the alternative route. I don't like taking the pathway that is the tried and tested pathway, even if we know that that gets to success. I was always intrigued by, all right, let's do it something different. If I was when I was a kid playing a video game, if you got to allocate points to your character for combat, I wouldn't spread them out evenly. I'd put them all on one random stat and try to then win the game with that one random stat. So that was why
yeah.
I started the way I did. I said to myself, don't worry about strength. Don't worry about strength. Just become a master of the little tiny movements in a technical sense.
Mm.
That served me really well until all of a sudden it didn't. And that all of a sudden it didn't moment was when I faced Justin Bishop. Like, I climbed the ranks of Australia in my weight category all the way to the top, and I won multiple national titles just with that approach. And then I faced Justin Bishop, and he beat me 6-0. And I recognized, oh, even though I won hand control against him in 5 of the 6 rounds, I took his hand, he still just threw me across the table sideways. So I recognized, oh, okay, I need some side pressure now. And that's when I started entering the chapter of seeking side pressure. And then with the addition of elbow conditioning and side pressure to my technique, it got me to like entry level international pro. And then I realized, oh, I'm not strong enough. I'm just lacking muscular strength now. And then here we are. I'm finally getting the muscular strength, and results are starting to come. And I'm for the first time ever, I've won an Oceanic title, and can sit here with a number 1 overall rank in Oceania. So pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, your shape has been phenomenal so far. As I've seen, I see your weight loss program. You're getting leaner and leaner. I do want to dig into that a little bit later. We've talked about your evolvement so far, like or your evolving of your technique and the joint conditioning. But I'm also curious, like, what are you working on right now? So you said the gym lifts are like the gym strength were your weakness. Is that the main focus you're working on then, or is there?
My goal is obviously, I feel like I'm getting close to getting an invite back to an East vs West match or something like that. Like, I feel like my
Yeah,
levels getting close to that. And realistically, they are East vs West focuses on the top 10 players within a weight category in the world. So I feel like I'm approaching that level now. If I look at all of the guys in the 105 kilo class is where I'm focused. If I look at all the guys in the 105 kilo class, I think that I think that 90% of them are stronger than me in a muscular sense. I think my elbow is better conditioned than the majority of them, with the obvious exceptions of people like Todd Hutchins, whose elbow's way ahead of mine still. So I feel like I'm ready on a conditioning level, but I still feel like those guys, just in a muscular sense, are still significantly ahead of me. So for me to break into that top 10 convincingly, I still feel like the best reward right now is just foundation strength. I still think there's a lot of room. My fiance Chetna has led me down this path of powerlifting over the last year and a half, and the rewards are still coming very quickly at the moment. I still feel like I'm making a lot of newbie gains in that sense. So I am probably 80% of my training energy is invested into essentially powerlifting training at the moment. And the other 20% would be table time. I'm always working on refining my table time. And when I'm on the table, I'm not in a position at the moment where I have a lot of opponents to train with whom are stronger than me or equally as strong as me.
Mm.
So I'm spending a lot of time letting the rope out and letting people swing around on my elbow. Again, the conditioning phase for me. I'm always focusing on and thinking about technique, but I think technique is my thing that I've developed probably the best out of the three. Um, Conditioning, I always
Yeah.
want more, but I still feel the biggest reward for me right now is just muscular strength.
Yeah, because I found that you're very when looking at the footage at you arm wrestling, I found that you are very adaptive to what's happening on the table. Even though like you're setting up for I don't, like a low hand top roll and it doesn't go your way, you can see the gears in your head turning whilst on the table, even though if you're in a bad position. And I found that interesting. That's hence the technical introduction. Um, but do you think you're more adaptive now than ever, even though you're focusing more
Yep.
on the gym time?
Yeah, I do. I
Is
feel
that
like in a conditioning sense, I feel like I'm finally able to use the full spectrum of technique. Even though like years gone by,
mm,
I might have been aware of the technique, but I didn't have the physical capability to like I didn't have a press 3 or 4 years ago at all. Where now I can press quite forcefully. I wouldn't say I can press off a ready go to a high standard yet, but it's close. It's
mm,
almost there. So with
it's
with
getting
that
there?
with that press conditioned, I know my outside game, my King's moves conditioned. So now I can move through all of those different positions efficiently. So yeah, my technical range and ability to adapt is definitely better than it's ever been before. The most recent tournament, the Last Man Standing, I think that was one of the big factors because
Yeah, that was
I was
crazy.
I was I was able to use every shape I could imagine to get victories, and I'd exhaust one
Yep.
side of my arm, then I'd exhaust the other side of it, then I'd go back to a king's move for a rest, and yeah. So that diversity in my conditioning is finally at a point where it's pretty balanced across the spectrum. But if anything, there's
Hmm.
still some development to be done on the press side of things for conditioning. I can still put more force into a hook and top roll than I can a press. So I need to close that gap.
Yeah, you could. I think you had like 38 pins, right?
Yeah.
On and the other, the second, I don't know how to
Second
pronounce
place
his
was
name, but he got
Mario Timbarkis and Josh Barker, and Danny
yeah with
Wozniak,
14.
I
I
think he with
think
14
14.
pins. Yeah, 14 pins. And
So
then
that so
Matteo Rangi had
you
11 pins.
outpinned him. So you outpinned him 2.7 times basically.
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty crazy.
yeah. I was pretty happy.
That's a huge win.
Yeah. I was very happy. Mario coming into that tournament was officially ranked number one in Australia. He defeated Lachlan Adair twice at the over the top tournament. So he took the number one spot, and Mario and I opened the tournament. We faced fresh. So I was very happy to be given that honor because it meant that um, the formal rank was there to be taken if I was to get the victory. But because there was a bit of a question mark as to the whole tournament, like can we take this as data if we faced each other later on in the tournament? It's not really necessarily that accurate, but we got that fresh opportunity, and I managed to just pretty cleanly go through him with a hook and side pressure. So I was happy, and then I got to face a fresh Brett Coots 2 or 3 matches later, and was able to get a decisive victory on him as well. So very happy, and then my first defeat came at the hands of Matteo Rengi at the Morris. It was my 7th match, and it was his first match, and we had a war. So I was happy that I was still able to give him a war
Yeah,
after
yeah.
after 7 already goes. So, and then
After
the second
7,
second time I faced him, I got him. So, yeah, I was very happy with the event.
did you? I think you didn't get your wrist opened a little bit, but I think you
Yeah,
still
actually,
managed to get him by side
I
pressure,
I
wasn't it?
I never once kept my wrist against Matteo Rengi. I always lost it, but
No.
yeah, my elbow was the reason I won that. He took my wrist, he's swinging around on it,
Yeah.
and I can just jam up and just absorb it, and then he gassed it,
So
and
now you basically have become the person that you well not dreamed of but wanted to become, right? Um the former arm wrestlers that managed to get through you by the side pressure, you've now become
yeah,
that person to
yeah,
do that to other
yeah,
people.
yeah. I still want more though. I want
S-
more elbow because there's some strong
yeah.
top rollers out there. But if I face people like Irakli in the future, like these are the people that I'm dreaming of facing someday, and I think about Irakli and I'm like, it's a long way to out top roll Irakli. Muscular sense, it's a long way. But if I half get there and then jam my elbow, that might be where the balance point is someday. I don't know. So I need more elbow always.
You can never have enough elbow.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm also curious. I didn't really find it online too much, but how or why come did you choose to drop the weight? Well, like you dropped a little bit of weight. Why is that? Because you want to focus on the 105? Is that
Yeah,
why you
when
dropped it
I went
mainly?
up to, I put a goal out there publicly that I was going to try to be 115 kilos by the time I played the last man standing. I got up to 110. I was I peaked at 111 about 3 days before the event, but came back down to 110 the day of the event. I was just too bloated, too much food. I had creatine jammed into me,
Mm.
and I was eating so much that I had to. I was feeling sick with how much I was eating, so I had to back off. And then after the event, off the creatine, eating way less, I quickly came back down to the sort of 105 zone. And 105 is where my body's uh, equilibrium, sort of natural resting point is at the moment. So I can I can force it up to 110 pretty quickly. I've now learned that. And I felt amazing. I really felt good at 110 in a strength sense. But it's hard to maintain that weight for me at the moment. So 105 is still where I would compete if I had to compete on the international stage. Um, I tend to put on 1.5 kilos to 2 kilos of quality, sort of genuine weight per year in the sport. So I think that the 105 will be my class for another 5 years, and then it will be too hard to reach, and then I'll be looking at the 115 class from then on. But um, that's yeah. The 110 that I was for last man standing was a very force fed, bloated, high water retention situation. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And speaking of the lifts you were just recently talking about, previously talking about your lift strength, would you be able to give a like percentage wise in the last 6 months how much stronger have you gotten in the gym because you're doing the more
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah.
powerlifting type of.
In the powerlifting sense, I'll start with my squat. My squat went from uh, nervously shaking under 60 kilos, was it, babe? 60 kilos was all I was able to put on my back without freaking out. And now I've done 150 kilo squat, which still is
Okay.
junior for squatting, especially at some of my body weight. But the activation of it, the I now feel like I know how to squat with a groove and all that sort of stuff. That's that one. The bench press has been the hardest to add numbers to. My 1RM has gone from I've previously once in my life, when I was getting ready for Zurab Tabaridze, I did bench press 140 then. Coming
Okay.
back off that, I was down at around the 125 mark when I started with training with Chetna, and now the heaviest I think I put on is 150, 152.5 or something like that, for a bench. That is I find that a hard slog, but, Chetna reminds me of how long it takes. She's someone who's achieved
Oh
state
yeah.
championships in powerlifting, and, she tells me she took 2 years to put on 5 kilos on her bench press, and that's the sort of patience it requires. But then you'll break through that
Yep.
and all of a sudden go up. So I'm just slogging away with the bench press, but 152.5 is my bench, 1RM, and my deadlift has gone from, like 160 to 227.5 in a year. Yeah.
I mean, those are pretty great numbers, man. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie. The
Yeah,
percentage wise,
I'm happy with it.
that's real.
They're all numbers that are beyond what I ever really expected myself to be able to do. And
Mm,
but I've fallen in love with the feeling of powerlifting. It feels really good, the training.
but yeah.
So once you got the bug, it's easy to keep going and it's exciting. Every five
Mm,
weeks to hit another 1RM is exciting. Oh, and within the powerlifting, there's also come the pseudo arm wrestling powerlifting blend of the strict curl. That has become something that I
mhm.
really enjoyed. And the strict curl, I kind of surprised myself. I didn't realize that I was going to be as good at it as I turned out to be. But when I started doing the strict curl, the very first time I was like 75 kilos 1RM, and I'm now up to I think 95 kilo 1RM is my best
95, right?
clean, and I'm knocking on the door of a 100 kilo strict curl now.
I've seen you do it. I've seen you try the 100 kg.
It's close.
Yeah,
I feel like it's close. It's just
it's close.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, damn. That's gonna
that's
be.
what's that's what's happened over the last year, and it's definitely been a good year. I still feel like there's heaps of room to go still. So I'm excited because it translates to the table. It feels like it
Mm,
translates to the table
yeah.
amazingly because I've already got the hand and wrist ready. I just needed that horsepower behind it.
Mm. I also think perhaps with the squatting, right? Because you're on the table, you're also squatting quite often, right? And you have to lock yourself up with your hip against the table and your feet in the corner or wherever you're gonna put it. Maybe you gain a little bit of leveraging power from that motion,
Well,
right? When you're top rolling. So perhaps.
I know that arm wrestlers don't typically squat, but in respect to what the squat has done for me, I think it's actually provided a lot of stability to my lower back. I used to have a lot of lower back issues,
Mm,
L4, L5, disc tear, and every time in the past that I ever tried to do any sort of deadlifting, I would flare my back up and not be able to walk properly for a couple of weeks, and I would bail on the deadlifting. But this time around, the last year and a half training under Chetna, I have never had a back issue once, and I don't know if that's just because she's guiding me technically on the deadlift, or if it's because I'm now doing the squat as well, that the whole posterior chain is activated in a way that it's now supporting the back a lot better. But so I feel like the squat has contributed to the stability of my back. And and subsequently by squatting, it's allowing me to develop my back a lot better, which has a much more direct translation into the arm wrestling world as well. So um, I definitely will keep on squatting, even if it pushes me up a bit in weight. It's okay. It's okay. I think it's worth it.
mm. And even with the current weight drop, with the new training regime, right? Training for the powerlifting exercises, upping that quite a bit. Where would you say with this new Ryan Bowen form? Where would you place yourself in the in the arm
Mm.
wrestling niche?
Oh,
Where do you have
I'm
any
still
ideas that difficult to
I'm still
say
trying to
or?
get I'm still trying to get a feel for it. Like, eh, I've only had a few pieces of data to really to go off. Since I've added this strength, the first thing I did was I competed at the Chicago East First West tournament. That was the first time I
Mhm.
realized that things had changed. It was actually on the left arm in the 105 kilo class. Um, I won my first round against a sort of an amateur level guy, and then my second round was actually he was the number one seed in the class, and he had a bye, so I was his first match. And I have gripped Adam's left arm in the past, and he has toyed with me. It wasn't even close. Anyway, I gripped up with him, and I had absolutely no problems rolling through his hand, taking him to the pad. And when that happened, I thought to myself, "Hang on a second, what's going on? How was I that comfortable with Adam Taranenko?" And
Yeah.
I knew I was going to be in for a good night. So after that left arm win, I walked over to administration desk where you could enter the classes, and I entered the super heavyweight division on the right, in addition to the 105 kilo class, because I thought if my left's doing that well, my right's going
Why
to do well.
not?
And I won that tournament, 105 and super heavyweight, on the right arm without feeling even remotely troubled by anybody. So that was the first indicator that okay, my level's gone up, but I still didn't know where. I got to do some after pulling. After that tournament, I pulled with Vrez Draken on right, and I was very happy. I was able to fully hold and just pin Vrez in a hook, no worries, which was a pleasant surprise to me. Then immediately after him, I pulled Arsene Kachatrayan. Now he'd had a super match with Paul Lynn, and I just pulled Vrez, and so there's fatigue, but we felt super balanced, me and Arsene. So that was an indicator, but again, a practice pull indicator. Then after that, my next bit of data was when I pulled the GVW match against Babenko. Now Babenko, for me was I didn't know anything about what Babenko's level was other than that he's a Russian national champion and he's been a world silver medalist. He was Russian national champion at 95 kilos a bunch of times, world silver medalist at 95 kilos, and now he's gone up to 105 kilos. So it was unknown, but he was too strong for me in the first 2 rounds when I tried to use my top roll and hook. But as soon as I used an open arm top roll, everything changed, and I felt like I felt like I was going to win the match. I got an unlucky
Mm,
humorous foul call, which was Krista apologized to me afterwards when he reviewed the footage. He said, "Yeah, I shouldn't have called that a foul. I'm sorry." Because Babenko had no ability to finish me. I know that in my heart. He had no ability to finish, and had the match have gone on, I believe I would have won. But I still don't know what Babenko's level was like relative to the guys that I do know. I don't know if Babenko's in the top 10 or not. But the most accurate bit of data that I got was the last man standing, where I pulled these 3 guys, Brett Coots, Barry Vargas, Mate
mm,
Orangi. These guys, they're guys I've known for my entire arm wrestling career. All 3 of those guys, or Brett and Mate Orangi, I've never beaten before. And Mario, we've always been close, but I've always been a little bit
yeah.
ahead. And Mario's been in some great form recently, done some big things internationally. And so for me to get a dominant win over those 3 again showed me that I've stepped up. So all I can say is I know I'm at my best. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for 105 kilo East vs West top 10 yet, but I I would have to think I'm close. I would have to think I'm close.
Okay.
Um, I love if I get the opportunity to find out, we'll see. But if I don't get the call to an East vs West anytime soon, I will keep on plugging away, and I'll probably turn up at an East vs West qualifier or something, and win the 105 kilo class again, and go from there.
And to go from there, exactly. So is there at this point in time, is there somebody, I mean, I know you made a video recently, I forgot the person's name,
Brad Grundy.
who wanted to, yeah, but yeah, and it's is it correct that Robert Baxter said you weren't ready for him? Is that the guy?
Oh yeah, no,
Or
There were people calling for me against Bogdan Stoica. Bogdan Stoica, 95 kilo
oh
guy
yeah, yeah,
who crushed Paul Lynn, really explosively. I beat Bogdan Stoica. He's number 1 in Romania. I beat Bogdan Stoica at Arm Wars 3 years ago, and did it very, very convincingly. Um, Interestingly, back then, 3 years ago, everybody said to me that day that it was a mismatch, that Bogdan was going to kill me. Neil Pickup, the promoter, even 24 hours prior to the event, was trying to get me to switch opponents and pull someone of lesser caliber because he said Bogdan's too good. Anyway, I insisted that I stay there on Bogdan, and it turns out I beat Bogdan. So it just felt like deja vu when and this is no
mm,
discredit to Bogdan. Bogdan did an amazing job beating Paul. And look, Bogdan may go all the way in the 95 kilo class. He may be fast enough and explosive enough to beat a 95 kilo Todd Hutchins, and take a world title. Styles make matches, and there's something about my game against his game just totally disabled his speed, totally disabled his wrist. And I would bet that I could do it again. That conversation was floating around in the arm wrestling world from the community, from the people who knew that I'd beaten Bogdan. When he beat Paul, everyone was saying, "Oh, Bogdan and Ryan is what's changed there now." And Robert, I think, a little ill-educated on that match history, made comments like, "Oh, no, 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 Bogdan's way at a different level. It wouldn't even be a close match." And I put out a video saying, "Hey, hey, hey, what do you mean it wouldn't be a close match? I'll beat him and I'll do it
you
again."
doubled down.
Yeah, and so that kind of added fuel to the fire. After that, Robert saw me win Last Man Standing, and he kind of came back and said he updated it saying, "Okay, clearly Ryan has leveled up." But the thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bogdan and I are a weight category apart, so I'm not going
Yeah,
down
that's
to
true.
95, and he's not come up to 105. So it's unlikely that match is going to happen anytime
There's
soon.
yeah.
But and that led to the Brad Grundy match, where Brad kind of jumped in with Robert's comments saying, "Hey, Robert, I hear you've got a ginger problem on your hands. Let me sort that out. We'll sort out who the number 1 ginger is in the world." So Brad Grundy's making a comeback. He got a back injury over the last year, and was out for some time. But he is one of those young guys that is had a phenomenal start to the sport in these first 5 years to beat the names of like Matt Mask, Nick Zinner, people like that in your first 5 years is ludicrous. So he's one of those people that just has it all put together right from the get-go. Um, and he's now back from his back injury, and he picked me as his call out. Uh, and I think he called me out before my last man standing result. So I think that he might be a little bit. I think he might have underestimated me, but now he's seen that, he might be thinking, "Oh no, hang on, this is a match." But either way, it's a cool match. I respect Brad a lot, and I'd love to pull him at his first West. And I've always dreamt of winning that strongest ginger in the world title. Let's formalize it. So that's just a
New
cool
belt.
title to have. Yeah, it's a cool title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So and he is at 105. He's at
yeah.
105.
At 105 would be the match. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that would be interesting. I mean, the way it's going with East versus West, we're going to be having a lot of events this year. So, I mean, maybe we'll
sounds
see
good.
you on the stage there. That would be great. I have two partial questions. First of all, what does a full week of training look like for you today? I usually ask this to the guests on the show because there's always fans from every athlete, and they want to train like their favorite athlete. So if you could
Yeah.
perhaps
Well,
walk us through.
one of the things that I used to do, I used to train every day, and a lot of volume. And when I
Hmm.
started training with Chetna, the first thing she did for me was back me off on my volume, and I was like, oh, it felt really strange to have rest days where I didn't used to have rest days. So my typical week will start off on Monday. We'll be doing the bench press will be the focus, and then all the different accessories to the chest movements. We will throw in a little bit of arm wrestling specific as well at the end of each one of these fundamental sessions. But bench press on a Monday. On a Tuesday, we'll go into the deadlift and all of the, again, back accessories that complement a deadlift. We'll then take a Wednesday off. Thursday, we'll come in and we'll hit the bicep focus, where the strict curl and the cheat curl are the main focus, as well as the heavy dumbbell static holds. And then light accessories with the bicep, all different variations of bicep movement. Then Friday will be squat, and then Saturday, Sunday is where we'll get our table time in. And table time for me once a week is high effort table time for no more than maybe 15 to 20 minutes of high effort. And then it's another 1 to 2 hours of passive pressure arm wrestling, really light pressure, but still moving through all the different positions. So refining your conditioning, refining your technique. And that's the week. That's the week. So it's 4 days of gym, 2 days of table time, and on each of those 4 days of gym, we have right at the end maybe 15 minutes of arm wrestling conditioning specific stuff as well.
Hmm. And do you structure strap specific training? Because I heard Ricard like strap specific
Straps.
training.
Yeah, so that for me will take part on a table time day. I do spend 95% of my table time in the strap. I think that that's where the sport ultimately finds its balance point. I think that if you're able to beat someone out of straps, you're probably just a chapter ahead of them. If you face someone who's genuinely on the same level as you, or they're a little bit in front of you, you will not beat them without the strap. So I spend most of the time in the strap. Practicing that skill set, I find very important. It's about connecting the strap. I think that, look, arm wrestling, when you're in the strap, you got to realize you're not actually really pulling against the opponent. You're pulling against the strap most of the time. So it's creating a situation where the strap is more superior in its connection with your hand and wrist, and trying to sense and create uh, a lacking connection in your opponent, and then knowing where you put that lacking connection on your opponent and the strong connection on you, taking the fight to there. Like, arm wrestling is more about forcing your opponent into a lane where they are vulnerable than it is about going where you feel strong. So technical awareness of how the strap connects to your hand and wrist, and how you've made it sort of fail in its connection to your opponent is super important. And once you know how to control a strap with little tiny manipulations during the application, um, it becomes something that amplifies your strength extraordinarily. I would feel like I've had some big victories in the past where I know, like, to me, there's nothing better than the feeling of beating someone that you know is physically stronger than you. It's such a cool feeling, and the strap will give that to you if you are if you execute well. So that's exciting. And then combine that with being strong yourself, and you start to really come alive. So yeah, I sort of obsess over the strap, and I obsess over how to make it amplify, because people who use it well, um, they're stronger than they come across stronger than they actually are. So you got to be one of those people. If you want to get all the way to the end, you got to master the strap.
And do you when you grip up in the strap, can you like you said, like the connecting part on your end versus the connecting part on your opponent's hand? Can you feel when it does exactly that for you? Is it can you like dissect the feeling between, okay, this is a very good setup for me and it's not connecting that well for the other person? Because I find that still a little bit difficult. I
Yeah,
know when I feel uncomfortable, but it's still very,
yeah.
vague.
You
Like,
know,
oh shoot, I lost the
the
match, but
one of the ways that I train for that is we you strap, and before you move, you with your training partner, and you will each declare a confidence score in your strap connection. You'll say, okay,
okay, yeah,
so you'll take your grip, you'll strap, no movement, and say, what is your confidence score in the strap? And you might say, I feel 70% confident that I'm going to keep my wrist and my pronation's coming with me. And your opponent might say, I don't know, I feel pretty damn connected. I think I'm going to take your wrist. And then you initiate and find out whether you were right or wrong. And you'll get better at
yeah,
reading the strap, because one of the skills in the strap, make no mistake that one of the things I do when I'm strapping is I try to make my opponent feel more comfortable than they actually are. I want to create a situation where my opponent thinks they're super connected, but after the go, they'll realize they're not. So I will create false pressures in the strap that make them feel connected, that it'll vanish the second they say go. And then their wrist is all of a sudden unsupported where they were expecting to have a supported wrist by the strap. So there is more to the strap than just connecting it for your own power. It's disconnecting your opponent as well. And these things only come with thousands of hours of tiny little feel. I say to people, just put the strap on and off for a night, for an hour. Just literally put the strap on, take it off, put it on, take it off, and feel and search as you do it. Feel and search as you do it. Feel and search as you do it. Then get someone else to put it on for you and feel and search your connection. Just put the strap on and take it off. Put it on, take it off. That skill is immensely valuable.
that's great advice. I think I'll definitely take that to heart within our training system, because we have a lot of new guys in the team, and I think this is a great exercise for our team. 100%. Okay, we've seen you try different or not exercise, but different techniques more recently, the last few years. But I've seen you use a low hand top roll quite a bit. Is that your go-to move still, or is it? If I'm completely wrong?
Yeah, the low head top roll is usually where my position starts. I
Hmm.
try to just make sure I take my opponent where they're vulnerable. Like if I face a tall guy, long arm top roller, chances are I'm not going to low hand top roll him. But
Hmm.
the foundation strength, my ace certainly was in the beginning a low hand top roll. I think it came from my tennis days, my top spin forehand. I hit a million of those things before I found arm wrestling. So I had a good activation on my pronation before I found the sport.
I see.
So that has always been my starting point, and it still remains my starting point for the majority of setups in a match. But I have expanded my game, and I wanted to be an all rounder. I want to be able to take people into a lane that they don't want to be in. So that's forced me to become conditioned and to be able to move through everything else. But my containment, I do enjoy containing top rollers as well. I love having strong fingers and beating someone's pronator, and getting supinated. Like there are many guys out there that are just too good of a top roller for me to try to top roll as well. And if I sense someone's too good of a top roller, then I'm gonna look to contain their pronator and jam up with side pressure like I did against Matteo Rangi. He's someone that I just can't top roll him no matter how much I try. His hand is too thick and his bicep strength is too much. Um, so yeah, the low hand top roll is my foundation. I would say my defensive hook is probably my next best. Um, and I've
Hmm.
always been pleasantly surprised with my wrist back defense. I didn't even know I had it. My first ever
Sorry,
professional,
you're
my wrist back defense. Like if I lose my wrist, I feel like I can still
yeah.
defend. Um, I didn't even know
Oh
I
yeah,
had
yeah.
that. My first professional super match was Arm Wars against Anil Najran from the UK, and I had no idea. I'd never pulled like this before in my life. I went to top roll him. He took my wrist, and I just out of stubbornness for not wanting to lose after traveling so far, I just dug in and really ugly one with side pressure. So I discovered that my elbow was kind of somewhat there right from the beginning. So um, that's my other ace, if anything. And a lot of people do ask me in
That's a
recent
top
times,
three.
they said, "Are you a Kings mover? Like, is the Kings move your thing?" Because I had 3 matches in a row where that's all I did. Schoolboy, Ron Barth, and Andrei Sharkovich. 3 matches in a row that I lost all 3 where I was in a Kings move. And my answer to that question is no, I'm not a Kings mover. I will not enter a Kings move deliberately the first time I ever engage with somebody. But I only will go to a Kings mover if my opponent is fundamentally too strong for me to top roll or to hook. The cleanest, quickest, most efficient way for me to get a victory is a flash pin top roll. That puts the least amount of work on me, and least amount of fatigue. And then after that, yeah, a hook will be the next most efficient. But if they're too strong that I can't do those things, they'll back me into a corner, and I'll get sticky right at the bottom and just say, well, this is all I've got left. And that's what happened with Babenko. He was too fundamentally strong for me, but once I got into that Kings move, I was like, So I actually wish I had have started with the Kings move against him in round 1. I think the result would have been different. But hindsight's a lovely thing. But so I'm never primarily a Kings mover, but I have the Kings move if you're strong enough to force me there. Yeah.
In your arsenal to.
Yeah.
But don't you think that is that one of your goals as well? Because sometimes I hear arm wrestlers specify, okay, just make your sword as sharp as it can be, and then worry about building a
Mm,
shield, right?
yeah.
But if you have for those people you have one sword, but right now I'm hearing the case that you have one sword, you have like a pocket knife and a knife in your
Yeah.
shoe, like you have all these different things to attack your opponents with, and I think that makes you very unpredictable, right? If you can change and like divert from your standard approach, like with Michael Todd, we know it's going to end in a king's move, right? And that is fun, I think, but is that also one of your goals, as to speak, like to be as diverse as possible?
I recognize that in my first few weeks of arm wrestling, when I started to look into the sort of world of professional arm wrestling, see who the best. John Brezant clearly stood out as the GOAT at the time, and I'm like, okay. And back in the Facebook forums that were there, I found John's elbow to fingertip measurements and his wrist to fingertip measurements, and mine were exactly the same. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And when I got to meet John, I later confirmed that elbow to fingertip exactly the same as John. And when I saw that initially, I said to myself, okay, well, John's an all-rounder. With that length arm and hand, he does everything. So I will try to emulate that because I don't have an anatomy that leans itself grossly towards one move. I'm not a Vitaly Leletin, big long top roller. I'm not a Sasha Andreev, short, only with one option sort of style. And I recognize that I'm going to need that diversity. I started out a top roller until all of a sudden a taller guy with a bigger hand came to my club, and I'm like, hang on a second. Top rolling feels ridiculously like an uphill battle now. You
Yeah.
naturally, I find that most people develop a style based on their training partner that's a little bit above them. That's what you'll become when you start out arm wrestling. The first mountain that you're trying to climb, the guy in the club that you can't yet beat, whatever shape he has, you will probably end up developing the counter to him, and that will become your foundation. as you chase him down. But it's important as you grow in the sport to recognize that if you want to go all the way, you need to be able to adapt your main weapon to every different shape and size you will encounter. And I don't think you can go all the way with just one weapon. I know that has been done by people. I know that people like Travis Bajan, one main weapon, he's gone all the way. But I think he's an exception to the rule. I think that for the most part, and it's not saying you have to be a top roller and a hooker, but you have to be a top roller who knows how to deal with tall people, or who knows how to deal with short people. You have to have all the micro variations between. So, like you can go and look at someone like Giannis Amelins. You're not seeing Giannis force hooks on people, but he has beautiful counters to to a top roller that's taller than him, that he's developed, and he'll arm wrestle very differently against a tall guy compared to what he will against a short guy. Yet he's still only top rolling. He'll have subtle variations. So it's important to recognize within yourself that you do need to create all of the different variations required to deal with every single opponent you'll ever face. And if you don't do that, you'll lose to people that are weaker than you. No one wants to do that. And it's the worst feeling in arm wrestling is losing someone who you know you are physically more capable than, but you lost because you only have one damn trick in your book, and their biomechanics is the counter to that trick. So screw that. Learn how to arm wrestle properly.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. How do you mentally deal with online criticism and backlash? Because I've only been in the sport for about 2 years, coming up a little bit longer now. I've seen a lot of things. I don't really care about anything that's happened online because I'm not into like the what's it called, the bad influence hype or whatever. I'm just curious to hear like from your point of view, how do you deal with that? Because I've seen, for example, a person that makes the videos about the delusional Ryan Bowen. I'm curious in your eyes where that came from your point of view,
Yeah,
instead
well,
of yeah.
how I
So
deal with it nowadays is certainly evolved. I think it came about
mhm.
because I was extremely consistently public with my ambition. And my ambition was
Okay.
always naturally, my ambition is ahead of where my reality is. And I think I'm someone
Mhm.
who's very ambitious. And because I was very consistently putting out what appears to be a very long and
Mm.
extreme goal, it was easy picking. It was very easy picking to ridicule it, especially if I fumbled on the next step toward it. If I would take a loss or whatever, people would take that opportunity. So that's where it was really born, because I was so consistent in my content of expressing my ambition. So I asked for it in that sense. I probably didn't expect it to come as much as it did, but you learn to just move on. There was chapters where it would get me down, and there was chapters where I didn't care, and everything in between. Where I'm at now is just you mentioned at the start, never giving up is kind of the fuel for me. I really have it built in me a deep competitive spirit to refuse to stop until I achieve whatever the hell it is I'm chasing. And that's been in me always since I was a kid with every sport that I ever played. And I've I've had success in every sport I've ever played, and if we were to, in hindsight, look where I'm at now and backtrack my goals, I don't know what the gap is, but wherever I'm at now was once upon a time one of my goals in the sport that I was once upon a
Okay.
time ridiculed for. So, um, when I won the Last Man Standing the other day, I saw people in the comments section saying, uh 4 years ago, I never would have believed that this was possible, sort of thing. And so that's the nature of this, the of being an athlete. We want to chase goals. So for me, I'm at a point now where I just am enjoying focusing on my strength progression so much, and I'm enjoying being silent and just turning up and being strong, and people going, "Oh, what the hell? Okay, that's different."
What the heck?
That's the best way to silence people, is just to achieve it with
Move in silence.
regardless. Yeah, do it in silence, and it'll get there. But the reason I put my goals out there so publicly was was because I was trying to establish a career as an arm wrestler, and there was no money in arm wrestling. I knew I had to develop a social media revenue if I was going to be able to go full-time arm wrestling. So my attempt to do that was simply to document my journey, and try to generate some revenue in the process. And that did come about. Arm wrestling became my career from social media. So it achieved that, but the double-edged sword was it also brought with it a hell of a lot of criticism and ridicule and whatever.
Yeah.
But where I'm at now, it doesn't bother me at all right now. I'm very happy with where I'm at in the sport. Very happy. I'm engaged to Chetna Sharma, who, in her right, she is just as passionate about her journey as I am. So we've got this perfect situation where we both sleep, wake up, train, eat, and repeat, and then travel to tournaments every couple of months and follow that lifestyle. So we've got it as good as you could possibly get. The dream is kind of it's come to reality to be able to be a full-time genuine arm wrestler. And so I know that we have the best possible conditions right now for training, the best possible conditions for progression. So haters will be there. I think that if I ever win a world title, I'm sure there'll still be someone calling me delusional.
Still
It'll
be.
still be there. They'll still be there. So, but look, if I don't
Oh,
win a world title, I'm still happy. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
even if I didn't get much further up the ranks than where I am now, I'd still love the sport forever. I'd still keep pulling. But um, yeah, it's a fun thing to chase. And so as long as you're loving what you're doing, the haters don't really affect you.
Got it. So now that it's quieted down, what lessons did you take from that phase of your public image? What was the most single important lesson you learned from that?
The lessons I learned from that, like I've gotten myself in trouble many times in the sport because I speak very plainly and I speak what I believe. Um, but I have my mother, if she's watching this, will be like, "Yes, right, I've been trying to tell you." And now my fiance will be nodding over here in the corner as well, saying to just stay out of the argument. You don't need to be in the argument with everybody, even if
Mm,
even if they are baiting you in a way that is based on a lie or an untruth or some sort of weird deception, and you know that they're wrong, just let it go. You don't need to stick up for your reputation so publicly all the time. And
yeah.
that's probably the easiest thing is just not responding. Just not responding and keep being yourself is the easiest way to actually overcome the criticism. Um, you don't know that until you've been punched in the mouth a few times, sort of thing, and then you go, "Oh, shit, yeah, okay." Dust it off and keep going. So, not being so immediately reactive to things would be probably a lesson. So, take your time and think about things before you actually respond.